American Airlines miles are some of the most valuable credit card miles in the world, and their program has some insane aspects to it. Today, we're going to talk about American Airlines hacks. My name is Sean, and I'm here with my co host.
Hi everyone, I'm Sherwin. This is the Credit Card BS podcast. On today's episode about American Airlines hacks, we're going to first dive in to talk about how to earn these miles. Then we're going to chat about their interesting structure of the loyalty program for status. And then finally, we will chat about some special sweet spots on how you can get outsized value with American Airlines miles. So beginning with earning miles, unfortunately, American Airlines is not a transfer partner from any of the major banks' programs. So for example, if you wanted United miles, you could easily transfer them from Chase. If you wanted Delta miles, you could transfer them from American Express, so on and so forth. But American Airlines doesn't have any of these partnerships. There was one built partnership earlier that ended. So, it doesn't transfer. So your only real options are American Airlines co-branded credit cards. So Sean, you want to talk about these?
Yeah, so there's a variety of these co-branded cards across two banks, both Citi and Barclays. So Citi has the American Advantage Platinum Select, $95. This is kind of their like standard tier card. It's got a $95 annual fee, and all these cards with an annual fee come with priority boarding and a checked bag. That's kind of like the bread and butter of airline credit cards. Not too much else, but these cards, do offer attractive sign-up offers. So the offer on this card can vary, but usually you're floating at least around, say, 60,000 American Airlines miles for about let's say $4,000 of spending in 3 months. And so that's a nice way to accumulate some miles. Citi also on the personal side has a premium tier American Airlines card, the executive card. And this card used to be a bit better, but it's still decent. It's a $595 annual fee. Again, as the priority boarding and, the stuff like that. But what's interesting about this card is you get Admirals Club membership. So you have access to American Airlines Admirals Clubs when you are flying on either a One World carrier or on an American Airlines flight. And so these are, kind of supposed to be like fairly nice lounges, maybe, kind of trying to compete with Amex Centurion and Delta Sky Clubs. Whether or not those lounges, the quality of them, you can debate. I've never been to one myself, so I can't say. Sherwin, have you been to an Admirals Club before?
I personally have not. I haven't had access to an Admirals Club. I've never had to second a card. From what I hear, it's probably better than a standard party pass lounge, but it's nothing crazy impressive. It's probably not even as good as most Centurion lounges. Though I have read that American Airlines has been investing in revamping some of their clubs, so they might be approving or have already approved. I'm just not super familiar with it. I would say getting this card is probably only worth it if you fly American Airlines a lot and can really take advantage of the lounge.
That makes sense. And it's also worth noting that it's you also would have access to Admirals Club if you have a One World Sapphire airline status that is earned outside of the United States. So the way that access to these lounges works for any of these US-based airlines is usually that if you accumulate status within the airline alliance for that respective airline, but you earn it from an airline based within the United States. So for example, if I earn American Airlines Platinum status, which confers One World Sapphire status, which would normally grant me access to these Admirals Clubs, you actually cannot access the Admirals Club based on that status. However, if let's say I had British Airways status that conferred One World Sapphire, and then I was on an American Airlines flight with my British Airways number attached, then I could access these lounges. But I would not be able to also receive the American Airlines status benefits should I also hold that status. A bit complicated, but yeah, the gist is if you want access to the lounge, Admirals Club, this is a very, very cheap way of acquiring it compared to, buying access via American Airlines. This is significantly cheaper. Also with this card, you get a $120 Avis/budget rebate, and this is based on calendar year, and then up to $10 a month of a Grubhub rebate, and then also the standard $100 global entry application credit, which would renew every 4 or 5 years, depending on if you purchase pre-check or global entry.
Yeah, I think these credits are a bit underwhelming. I'd say the only real reason to get this card is either for the sign up bonus or if you really plan on using that lounge access. I'll talk about some of the other cards that are available. So there's also the Citi Business A Advantage Platinum Select. So very similar to the Citi Personal $95 card. This one is $99 card. Similar benefits. It's just the business side. Also usually comes with a decent welcome offer. And it's also a business card, so it does not report to your personal credit, does not count toward your 524 status. Now, American Airlines is very interesting in that it does not only have one bank partner, it also has cards with Barclays Bank. Specifically, the ones you can apply for are the Barclays A Advantage Aviator Red, which is a $99 annual fee card. This one also usually comes with a pretty good sign-up bonus, and what's cool is often there's no minimum spend requirement to get the sign-up bonus. So I've seen it be like 60,000 or 70,000 miles just by having one purchase. Could be like a stick of gum, and you'd instantly get those miles. So that's pretty cool. And then there's also the Barclays A Advantage Aviator Business Card, which is $95 annual fee. You get the same standard priority boarding, free check back, and overall, I don't know, Sean, how do you feel about these cards? I personally think they're pretty useful to get for the sign-up bonuses, but don't really have that much long-term value unless you really want to hold that free check back or you actually fly AA pretty often. What do you think, Sean?
I pretty much entirely agree that I don't find these, usually similar to other airline cards. These aren't great, but they do have the sign-up offers, given that you're earning AA miles, are very, very attractive, where one card could get you potentially a one-way first-class ticket to Asia. For example, if you're getting 80,000 miles, that's a first-class ticket to Asia if you can find availability. So that's like not business, first class. That's very good. That's a very competitive sign-up offer. But yeah, long-term, very few of these cards make sense. I think, try to grab, especially if you can, the business cards. Don't affect your 524. Get a nice sign-up offer. Dump them a year later.
Yeah, and always keep in mind when you open these cards, you're always allowed to downgrade or cancel after 1 year. So you could potentially only pay up the first annual fee. So don't feel like it's a long-term commitment. And me personally, I agree with Sean. I would really go for the business cards if you can, because they don't add to your 524 count, which means you're able to get more cards in the long term because it doesn't affect your personal credit. I would also want to add that generally, you wouldn't want to put your everyday spend on these cards because they only earn 1x miles, 1 mile per dollar on your spend. And generally, we want to be earning at least 2 points per dollar, usually 2 points transferable currency. Don't get me wrong, American Airlines miles are very valuable. However, 1x really just is not the best option when you look at the other stuff out there. So I probably would only really spend on this to get the sign-up bonus. However, if you do value American Airlines status, which we'll talk about next, it may be worth considering spending on these cards because there are ways to earn status by spending. But yeah, Sean, would you agree? I would not put normal spend on this card.
Totally agree. With the exception, of course, as you said, if you're chasing status, because there is an argument to that. But if you're just like, someone that's not going for high tier AA status or anything like that, and you have limited spending, put it on a different card.
Yes. Other ways you can earn American Airlines miles is one is the shopping portal. This sounds pretty silly, but you could earn a significant number of points per dollar if you click through their shopping portal before you make these online retail purchases. And this becomes more interesting. We'll talk about later. Is because you also learn loyalty points when you shop through these portals, which are what determine your status. The one last way you can earn American Airlines miles that I want to mention is through Basque Bank. So Basque Bank is a bank in the United States where you could put money in their mileage savings account, and they earn American Airlines miles as your interest. So instead of getting cash in that account as an interest, you earn X number of American Airlines miles per dollar saved per year, and it's paid out on a monthly basis. I personally use this myself and gotten a good number of miles out of it, but you need to do the math and make sure it makes sense for you financially. Sean, is this something you've ever been interested in?
I think for me, it's a tough to justify because, depending on the current interest rates at other banks, you're not earning that competitive of enough rate of these miles to really offset what I would have been earning at a different high yield savings account. So for me, it's not of the biggest interest.
Got it. I think, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one quirk to note though is that, as you know, interest is taxable in the United States, but the way BAS calculates interest as reported to the IRS is they value the American Airlines miles at a pretty cheap rate. I think it's like almost less than half a cent per mile, something. So if you're in a high tax bracket, it could potentially be advantageous to earn these miles as your interest. But, I can't really make generalized recommendations. It just depends on your own financial situation.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize that they considered them such a low value for the tax rate, because I know like oftentimes banks actually like some of these currencies seem to like overinflate what they put on taxes, because like if you do a credit card referral, you'll usually be taxed on that. So it's nice to hear that they actually tax it so little. So should we move on to status now?
Yep. So Sean, you want to start us off with this?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so what's interesting about AA and their status program is, it's none of this BS of like, oh, I have to fly 80 flight segments and then I have to spend X number of dollars on the flights or earn this many number of points. It's nothing like that. And so you're going to love this or you're going to hate this. How it works is their entire system is done through loyalty points. Now, you can earn loyalty points by flying, for example, right? Like depending on how much you spend on your flight. You can earn it by flying on partners, fly AA. You can also earn it via other methods, such as credit card spending. And if you spend on a credit card with AA, you earn 1x loyalty points on everything with no bonuses. You can earn loyalty points by buying things through their shopping portal. And yeah, you earn 5 per dollar on flights with AA. And so this is very interesting because you can earn fully fledged AA status just by spending on a credit card, where if you spend enough on a credit card, you could have way higher tier status with way more loyalty points than some guy that spends every day of his life flying AA. And so it's a very, very interesting system they have. And
yeah,
so
to put this into perspective, right? We're talking about, so for example, their top tier status, Executive Platinum, requires 200,000 loyalty points, and you can earn 200,000 loyalty points by spending $200,000 on their credit cards, which is a lot of money. But to put it into perspective, you can literally never set foot on an American Airlines flight and be the top tier American Airlines elite if you just spend much of money on your credit cards. And I would say compared to the other competitors like United, especially Delta, the amount of money you need to spend on your credit cards to get status is like much less than if you were to spend your entire way to status on like United or Delta.
yeah, and I think it's so interesting as well that like you're not earning status by spending on the cards technically. You're earning loyalty points, which then confer status. And you say like, what's the difference, right? That way is better because it means you're fully earning the status, because AA also has milestone rewards for the amount of loyalty points you earn. So you're actually like getting fully fledged status, not some watered down version where, like, for example, with the IHG and, oh, if I don't actually spend the number of nights and I just spend on the card, I don't get all the milestones. This, you actually get the milestones. So it's really, really powerful. And just some quick kind of caps of like what the status levels are. Gold, you have to earn 40K points. Platinum is 75K. Platinum Pro is 125, and Executive Platinum is 200K. Platinum Pro and Executive Platinum give 1 World Emerald. Platinum gives 1 World Sapphire, and Gold gives 1 World Ruby.
Yeah. Also, you should know that credit card bonuses do not count. Obviously, like if you could just get 75,000 loyalty points by opening a new card, that would be insane. Fortunately, that's not how it works. Also, if you are spending in a category that gives you like a 2x multiplier on the cards, unfortunately, you are still going to be only earning 1x loyalty points on that spend. So just keep that in mind. I mean, the main benefits are like gold or above, you get 2 free check bags. Platinum Pro and above, you get 3 free check bags. Starting at gold, your entry level status, you can pick preferred seating directly at time of booking without any extra charge. Um, you can also pick main cabin extra at time of booking. If you're platinum or above, at gold, you can upgrade if it's still available at check-in for free. And now what's perhaps most useful or interesting to people is the domestic first class upgrade benefit. Sean, do you want to quickly explain how that works?
Yeah, so starting a few days before your flight, depending on your status, you'll be put on an upgrade list, and assuming that there are still unsold first class seats domestically, you are eligible to be upgraded to those entirely for free. Now, just because your window to be upgraded has opened does not necessarily mean you will be immediately upgraded. They have some internal algorithm to determine that. But at Executive Platinum, it's 100 hours out, Platinum Pro 72, Platinum 48, and Gold 24. Your success rate of getting upgraded to these will be heavily, heavily dependent on your status tier and the route you're flying. For example, if you're flying between two AA hubs, don't expect to be upgraded as a Gold or Platinum. But let's say you're flying between two random airports that very few AA frequent flyers take, then yeah, you might have a decent shot.
Yes, and American Airlines status also confers one world status. So at gold, you get ruby, platinum, you get sapphire, platinum pro, and executive platinum, you get emerald. Sean, are these valuable benefits to have?
Yes. I mean, ruby's pretty mid, right? You're really only getting like business class check-in and stuff. Sapphire is interesting because you get access to business class lounges. But what's most interesting, of course, is Emerald, because you actually get access to one world first class lounges. There are a few exceptions. You don't get like the Qatar Al Safa or anything. But for example, I've visited the Qantas First Lounge at LAX, and that is the best lounge at LAX, hands down, no question. Full sit down restaurant, all that. And business class lounges often can be fairly mid. They're just kind of a place to sit, get a drink, and maybe some mediocre food. First class lounges, on the other hand, are an experience in and of themselves, usually kind of equating to like full service restaurants, no crowd, stuff like that. And so I find it to be very interesting because it's the only airline alliance that actually has a alliance status that confers access to first class lounges, whereas Star Alliance Gold does not, and Sky Team Elite Plus, I believe it's called, does not have that either.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. In addition to status, you can also earn particular perks by reaching loyalty point thresholds. I'm not going to read through all of these because there's a lot, but they're called loyalty point rewards. So, when you reach these thresholds, you can get automatic benefits, or sometimes at the higher tiers, you can choose between things like system-wide upgrades, bonus miles, Admirals Club membership or passes, trip credits, loyalty points themselves, various random gifts. But yeah, it's very complicated and long, so I'm not going to go through any of these. But are there any particular highlights, Sean, or does that?
I think it's mainly going to be, so there's a lot of, there are a lot of these, and they go up very high as well. They go up to 5 million loyalty points, which if that sounds nuts to you, I mean, there's people spending that on a credit card, I'm sure. But I think the system-wide upgrades are very useful. So there's kind of like a separate upgrade inventory system that you can check for AA flights. And if it's willing to accept, I think it's like C class or something like that availability, where you can use these system-wide upgrades to upgrade into international business class. That's very, very useful. I think the other ones that could be kind of interesting is you can give status to people at certain tiers. So someone in the Discord server actually gifted me American Airlines Platinum status. Check out the Discord at the link in the description. But his name's Chris. Thank you very much, Chris, for doing that. That was awesome of you. But there's people that are able, you're able to gift AA status because of reaching these tiers, and it goes up to it's a lot of times, like when you can gift status, it's usually like a loser gift, right? Like for example, you can gift a Marriott status as a milestone reward. Total trash. But here, airline status is actually very difficult to earn, so it's actually pretty cool you can do that. But that and the system-wide upgrades, I think, are kind of the standout features. And there are a couple of like award rebates you might be able to get at certain tiers. So like, for example, at 5 million, there's an option of up to 500k miles back on award redemptions, which potentially could be actually very, very valuable.
So, what's your overall take, Sean, on American Airlines status? Is it worth chasing for you?
That's okay. For me, here's the thing. Okay. This is what's funny about airline statuses. Okay. This is what I find really like profoundly ironic by them. That the statuses really only benefit you if you don't fly in premium cabins. Because if I'm flying international business or first class, it doesn't do anything for me, really. I mean, okay, One World Emerald, sure, if I'm flying business, I can access the first class lounge and use the first class check-in. How useful is that really? I mean, it's nice, not really fundamentally game changing, right? A business class lounge is usually pretty decent, and there's not really going to be usually a line when checking in at the business class line. And so for me, my motto is if it ain't business, I ain't going. So if I'm already flying business or first class, the status isn't that useful. And so but what's funny about it, right? Like if you're able to earn these high tier statuses, whether it's by spending on a credit card or whether it's by, flying for your company or whatever, it's like usually at that point, I would probably, like if I'm able to spend, for example, $5 million on an AA credit card to attain these high milestones or to attain these high tiers of status, it's, the case that I would probably be able to just use those miles or spend the money for these premium cabins. And so I would rather just fly in the premium cabin personally, that rather than chase the status. Now, that being said, if I have excess spending, because I know people that have a lot of spending they can do on a credit card, and I'm not able to reach sign-up bonuses constantly, I think there is a legitimate argument to chase the status because the points are so valuable that you can do these. And we'll talk about the redemption angle in a second, but the points are so valuable that you can get these pretty, amazing deals. And the milestone rewards are fairly competitive where you can get some pretty, interesting value out of it. I definitely think there is a case for it, but it is not a case of like, oh, this is a no-brainer. Everyone should try to do this. If you have $200K in spend, you should definitely go for Executive Platinum. I'm going to say, no, if you have $200K in spend annually, you should just chase a bunch of sign-up offers because all the points and cashback and whatever you're going to get from those is going to heavily outweigh whatever the 200K AA miles plus Executive Platinum milestone rewards would have been. That's just me. Again, of course, if you're flying like economy AA every week or something for your work, then that's a totally different equation. But for me, I'm doing all leisure trips. If it ain't business, I don't really want to go. How about for you?
Yeah, I think for me, there are two reasons why I'm not really chasing AA status. One is just that, you earn 1x points on your credit card spend, and that's just not very competitive for me. Usually I'm going to be earning at least 2x points on my regular spend and 2x transferable currency points, not just 2% cashback. So in effect, I'm giving up one. I think about it this way. I'm giving up 1 point per dollar to gain one loyalty point. So I'm exchanging 1 mile I can redeem for 1 loyalty point. And because I don't fly AA that often, I mostly fly Southwest, and I'm fine with domestic economy. That's just, I just don't do that personally. But again, if you're flying AA economy a lot, it could be worth it to you. But I don't know, Sean, is it fair to think about it like if you spend on AA card, you're sort of purchasing a loyalty point with, and the cost is like another transferable currency mile you could have earned.
Yeah, I totally think that's fair, given that you have the Venture X that has 2x transferable points, or the City Double Cash, or the MX Blue Business Plus up to $50K dollars in spending. But yeah, I definitely think that's a fair way to think about it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap up this episode and talk about some cool redemptions you can make with American Airlines miles. One thing that I really like about American Airlines is that they offer free changes and cancellations for their awards. And this means that even if you're not super sure you're going to fly something, you can go ahead and just book it if you see availability. And then if you cancel it, it doesn't cost you anything. Whereas we see with a lot of foreign programs, they tend to charge pretty hefty change and cancellation fees.
Yeah, this is something that's like really nice about the US airlines, which, even though most of them have pretty garbage redemption rates, you have this, a lot of them don't charge cancellation fees. And that's, yeah, as you said, super, super, super helpful because you're not constantly being worried about like, oh, if I change my flight, I pay a bunch of money. Whereas like something like Air Canada Aeroplan, very competitive award chart, very good currency. But it's like if I book a Saver award, I have to pay 150 Canadian dollars if I want to cancel that. And so I don't like booking Aeroplan awards unless it's like I know I'm going to fly because I'm just don't want to risk that money I might lose. Now, what's also nice about AA though is they have some very good sweet spots, some of the best in the world. And so these prices we're going to list are all like one-way redemptions. For example, from the US to Asia, you can fly in business class for 60,000 miles or 80,000 miles in first class. And the airline that would be US to Asia would usually be Japan Airlines. They operate US to Japan flights and they're one world partner. And so flying, let's say 13 hours in Japan Airlines first class for 80,000 miles, that's a pretty good redemption. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, and keep in mind, oftentimes these sign-up bonuses are already around 60 to 80,000 point range, so you can literally be getting basically a free business or first class ticket to Japan by opening a single American Airlines card. If you think about it that way, it's such a good deal.
For sure. And so the next one is Etihad first class apartments. Now this has become rather comically difficult to book in recent months in the last year, but if you can grab it, 70,000 points from Abu Dhabi to JFK. So it's about a 12-hour flight and one of the nicest first-class products in the world. So that is quite a nice redemption. Sherwin, now you flew Etihad apartments, right? And so how was that?
Yeah, so the route I flew was a bit shorter. It's from London to Abu Dhabi. Awesome, phenomenal experience, especially their hard product. You basically have your own sliding door. It's like the hugest space you could possibly have on board. The food is top notch. They have caviar service and very expensive alcohol. And I wouldn't say the service is the best. I tend to find like the East Asian carriers have really good service, but I think in terms of hard product, it's definitely blown away. I personally used Aeroplan miles to book my redemption, but as we just mentioned, American Airlines is also an option. You do want to make sure you're booking A380 and not the 777 if you want to fly the apartments specifically.
Yeah, I would imagine the other one would still be decent, but not nearly on the tier of apartments. So Sherman, do you want to cover the next sweet spot on our list?
Yes, so Qatar Q Suites to Doha. I've personally never flown this. I believe Sean has, but it costs 70,000 American Airlines miles to fly Q Suites, which is very competitive. I mean, this is regarded as one of the best business class products in the world. Some people would argue you get close to a first class experience on a business class price. Sean, you've flown this, right? So what's your take on it?
Yeah, so I flew this from Doha to Los Angeles. I booked it with Qatar Avios. And yeah, I would agree. I think it's the best business class product in the world. Really nice. I mean, overall, everything's just put together really well, having the shutting door and all that. Dine on demand, which I loved. Good amenities. They have Diptyque amenities. Very good experience. I think the only thing that could have been improved was like maybe the bedding. I thought the bedding wasn't spectacular, but it was, definitely fine. Yeah, I would love to fly it again. Really, really nice business class product. Another product I've flown was Qantas First Class to Australia. And that is also bookable with AA miles. It's 110,000 AA miles from the US to Australia or New Zealand in first class, or 80,000 in business class. Now, Qantas has been pretty stingy in releasing award availability, but this is one of the better ways to get to Australia, especially if you can get that first class redemption. So like I flew Qantas A380 first. Really nice product. I mean, I know it's not regarded as like the best first class in the world. I really enjoyed it being on the A380 and all. You had, plush bedding, massaging seats. They had the bar upstairs so you could go hang out in a booth. Really nice service, really friendly service. I haven't heard amazing things about Qantas service, but I actually thought it was really good. And so I think that's another great redemption.
That's awesome. And the last one we should mention is from Middle East to East Asia. It's pretty competitive pricing. So we're looking at 40,000 one way in business or 50,000 one way in first. Sean, have you flown this route yourself?
I have not. I've booked this route a few times. I've never flown it. So it's insanely competitive because like you could have like a 12-hour something flight for this. So like I remember I had booked like a Tokyo Haneda to Abu Dhabi and it was supposed to be like 12 hours or something. And so for 40,000 points for 12 hours in business is nuts, right? That's like absurdly good value. And so if you can snag one of those redemptions, that's one of the most competitive sweet spots in all of like award travel. So I definitely think that's worth looking for.
Yeah. And another good thing about American Airlines redemptions is that they generally don't pass on fuel surcharges, to my understanding. So, for example, if I want to fly first class to Tokyo on Japan Airlines, it will cost me 80,000 points and $5.60 in the airport taxes, and that's it. You won't have to pay like hundreds of dollars in surcharges that other carriers have. So I think this is a big advantage of this program. And Sean, would you agree? I think this is arguably the best domestic program for getting outsized value on partner redemptions, especially when we're looking at competitors like United and Delta that have just raised their redemption charts and prices through the roof, where it's so hard to get good outsized value on international business or first. Other than maybe Alaska Airlines, which is pretty good too. But I think this is a very good program domestically compared to most
I would agree
other things.
and even go a step further and say this is better than Alaska, just hands down. I think given Alaska's devaluation and the fact that it's significantly easier to game status with AA and there are more AA credit cards and all that, I would say this is definitely the best US based mileage program that there is.
Cool. Okay, so let's wrap up. I think my overall take on American Airlines loyalty program. So some pros are definitely just like the partner redemptions are very good. The sweet spots we talked about, the fact that they don't pass on fuel surcharges, the fact they get free changes, cancellations, and another pro is you can get a lot of American Airlines miles easily if you open their co-branded credit cards, and there are several of them. I'd say the main cons are just that they're not a major transfer partner from a bank, so it's hard to get like that many points from them if you don't open their credit cards. And I think their status is not too hard to obtain compared to their competitors, but for me, is it quite worth it, especially given that their cards only earn 1x points, their loyalty points. So that's my overall take. Sean, what about you?
I pretty much agree entirely. I think the miles are super valuable. If you have, insane business spending or something, I think it could be worth it to chase status. If you want, one world status and you may fly AA economy a lot. And yeah, I think just the miles are incredibly, incredibly competitive. So even if you're not someone that wants to totally, totally game this and, max out your status, getting some of the sign up offers, particularly on the business cards, I think could be a very, very nice angle to approach it.
Awesome. So if you enjoyed today's episode and found the information useful, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to our channel. Also, if you want to apply for any credit cards, please consider using one of the links in our description below. It greatly helps us out. And Sean, why don't you plug our Discord?
So if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers and credit card enthusiasts entirely for free, check out the Traveling Discord at the link in the description. You will learn a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.